Buckle up for AEC Trailblazers, the Founders Files, where we crack open the stories of the brightest minds in the AEC startup scene. Forget institutional pitches. We're diving deep into the real personal journeys of these industry disruptors. Get ready for some casual chats firsthand.
Welcome everybody to the Trailblazers podcast. This is an AEC podcast where we interview successful entrepreneurs. Here with us, it's Clive. You want to say hi?
Hey everyone, thanks very much for having me. I'm looking forward to the chat.
We are happy to have you here. Love your accent, Clive. So this is going to be amazing for our audience. So let me give a bit a background of Clive Jordan. Clive is the co-founder and CEO of Plannerly, the BIM management platform that simplifies and standardizes BIM planning, information requirements, project tracking, and so more. That for sure is going to give us more details soon. His passion is to bring together BIM and information management expectations across all silos in our industry, and to get rid of evil BIM. Am I correct? Do you want to add something, Clive?
Well, that sounds like a lot. So our passion is to simplify the implementation so that everyone gets value. That's how I like seeing it. And we make BIM and BIM management a lot of fun instead of boring and tedious and stressful. We like to make it simple and fun.
You know what? I really like the way you do the marketing in your company. I feel that we are so used in our industry to, serious stuff, be on time, hard work, and we don't have time for fun. You don't have time for a differentiator. So I'm glad someone is doing that.
Thank you. We like to make it lighthearted where we can, but obviously there's a lot of serious and professionalism behind the scenes. But lightheartedness makes it easier to understand sometimes as well, easier to receive it.
No, absolutely. Hardworking for sure. So before we deep dive into Plannerly, just wanted to understand a little bit on how did you start? What's your background? Can you tell us about young Clive?
Young Clive used to work with his father building stuff, and that was what got me into the construction industry. I used to build things ever since when we dug holes and filled them with concrete and built like the garden shed or a workshop and every single project got bigger and bigger. And I just got more elated by these opportunities. I worked in construction for 6 years. I was a civil engineer by education, and that was in the UK. And then I just had the wonderful opportunity to build project as a contractor, and they were ranging from big town center regenerations to cedar fences to roads and bridges and really big, just things that I loved leaving my mark on this world. I said, when I have children, I'm going to bring them here and show them, and they're going to be bored out of their minds, but I'm going to be really proud of what I've done. And so I've got a number of those things that, I love to say you can see from space, and I've sort of created something. But then to get from that move into software, I actually can say that I've worn quite a few different hats. I have been an architect. I've been an owner for 3 years implementing building information modeling. I've been an engineer, contractor, and also software. So software, this is my second startup. And the first journey was back in 2004, 2005, where we were creating the first 4D and 5D models. And that was a journey with Vico software, later acquired by Trimble. That was a really, really fun time. And we were all about how to use a 3D model. And one of the things that was the most painful experience was actually how to actually prescribe what the requirements were for a model before we actually created the model. And so that concept of LOD came up. Long story and lots of different ways of using the acronym around the world. But we were the first to kind of generate that as a concept, for good or for bad. And it's been adopted and adapted and changed around the world. And then it became such a problem that we needed a solution to solve that and to make it easier for planning of information requirements and checking of information requirements. And we found that, man, I was like, long story short, but I could go on and on. This has led me to this place, which is we found that teams were trying to implement building information modeling, and nobody was reading the BIM execution plans that they were creating. Nobody could understand the LOD matrix spreadsheets that people were trying to create and use. And then everything created this mammoth task of checking models with spreadsheets open and model viewers open. And so we realized it was such a pain that in our position then, back in as an owner, we tried to develop lots of different tools and solutions and integrate a whole bunch of things together. And we realized it was such a problem that it actually needed a solution. And that's what was the birth of Planoly, to make sure that it was easy to plan early and to be efficient in that whole workflow, from creating the specification to automatically checking that specification. So I don't know whether I even answered the original question, but that was a bit of the journey, coming from building workshops in the garden with my dad to sitting and solving some problems in our industry with technology.
It's such an amazing background, and like it's just crazy that you started on the field and you ended up doing construction. Like a lot of people, you can hear them as just being, I don't know, a drafter or something in a computer, and then moving into technology because it's like it's more connected or it's more easy, right? You did a journey that it was like from actual being in the dirt, covered in mud, doing stuff, and moving into technology, which is amazing. And also the fact that you were doing 4D and 5D like almost 20 years ago, that's amazing. How was implementing technology, and we're going to compare this with how it is today, but how it was implementing such amazing technology like 4D and 5D 20 years ago, when BIM was not even a thing in most construction. How is to implement a technology like 4D and 5D 20 years ago, when most companies didn't even know about BIM at all?
Yeah, we when you don't have a 3D model to start with, it becomes even more challenging. And we found ourselves actually at that point in time, we created models for customers, and we actually ended up with a huge services business of about 130 people that were building models. That was all their whole job, was just to build the 3D models for the customers. So they would go through taking 2D drawings and creating a 3D model and doing constructability analysis and giving a report back to the client. And that would be a massive time and cost saving. And then we would use that model for 4D and for 5D. But so therefore you get your quality, you get your coordination, you get your timeline, you get your costs. Everything is tied with that model and the quantities. It was a lot of, I'll put fun in inverted commas, because it was new ground. It was fun because we were creating these first models of these buildings that people hadn't seen in 3D before, and creating a simulation over time and seeing the cash flow curves as a result of that. And being able to move a set of walls on a floor, and for those quantities to update the durations, because it was duration based on the quantity of work and the productivities. And then also for those quantities to update the costs and the cash flow profile of the project. So this 5D integrated model was a real kind of, wow, you can do amazing things with it. But back then there were so few 3D models to actually go into that workflow. So it was definitely a time of sort of chicken and egg, where it would be great to have 3D models to do this, but we had to create them ourselves. How does that change over time? Well, there are a lot more models created nowadays, and therefore it should be easier. But we still have a bunch of the same or similar sort of types of software for doing this. And we still have challenges in model quality. We still have challenges, the model wasn't created for the purpose. So if you are trying to do coordination, you need to make sure that the right elements are in the models that you're going to bring together to coordinate. If you're doing a simulation, a 4D simulation, you need to make sure that the elements are designed in a way that can be simulated. So are you going to maybe break up slabs in a certain way? Or are you going to phase the building in a certain way so that you can actually use it in the simulation? And then quantities, are you going to break columns per floor so that you get the right quantity of concrete rather than the whole floor to floor 1 through to ground through to 20, and you get over the estimate of concrete? So all of these things do need to go into some kind of a specification in order to make sure that the other processes are much more efficient. And we still have challenges with that today, hence why we're doing something about it. But there are some differences between not having a model and almost having too many models as we have nowadays.
Oh, for sure. And first thing I want to say is I love the commitment of, most companies, when they want to implement a technology, is like, do you have a model? No, I don't have a model. And that will be the end of the conversation, right? Like, I'm not able to sell you because you don't have a model, but you committed to it. It's like, you don't have a model? Don't worry. We're going to create it for you. And then we're going to implement our technology on top of it. And at the same time, you made a great business. So I feel that's an amazing lesson for many startups out there.
I'm not sure I would recommend creating so one thing that you do in life is you realize, oh wow, we created more of a services business. At some point our revenue was 70% services and 30% software. And so what you realize is actually in Plannerly world, we don't want to do any services. We are solely focused on making software and making software easier, just more intuitive, more simple, more integrated, and more part of the workflow and updating continuously versus trying to fix the gaps with some kind of service. And hence why we have a partner network of about 400 partners around the world that are implementing and our services and our training, etc. So it's a big difference between the two. We can focus on software.
No, yeah. And it's like from a business perspective, it makes so much sense. You either adapt, and I feel the world's different nowadays. Like you can have partners nowadays. Like 20 years ago, there were not many companies that you can outsource this. So I feel that the situations has changed, and for sure you want to be focused on your product and not a side business. Absolutely. You were also mentioning standards, and I feel that what you're doing is amazing, because a good example is digital twins or 5D, like you said. It's like a lot of people are saying, like, well, it's so hard implementation because most people cannot convey on a standard on how to do it. Like they just do it. There is no place to go there to go and follow rules to successfully implement a standard. So what you're doing is amazing. And if you can tell us a little bit more about how you fix this problem, how you basically making people follow standards and make the quality of the industry better in terms of build processes.
Sure. I think that the light bulb went off in our head when we had an ISO 19650 auditor. So there's a standard called ISO 19650. It's the global standard when it comes to building information modeling, information management, and it's really being adopted everywhere internationally around the world. And the auditor said it's a dream to audit anybody using Plannerly because you put everything in the same place. you make the workflows so integrated, you put all of the things that we need all connected. And so for us, it was like, yeah, okay, we've been doing that because we think that that's the right thing. We've been solving problems that customers have come to us with. And so trying to implement standards is sometimes so challenging because they change the business processes, they are disruptive, and they are sometimes quite cumbersome and quite detailed for everyone to learn new things. And so the more that we can simplify, the more easy it is for teams to implement, the more likely it is that people can have accountability for specifically the tasks that are needed to create models that are actually going to be valuable down the line. And so that whole combination of making intuitive software loaded with templates to make it super simple for them to get started, and loaded with things that are compliant already with the processes that the teams are trying to adhere to. That has just been, I mean, we lucked into it. We haven't purposefully said, oh, what we need to do is we need to adopt a better workflow and follow this process. It's like the concept of level of detail, level of development, level of definition. All of those concepts have now moved towards level of information need. And we have forever been able to follow that concept of how do you want to define the geometry, the information, the documentation in a machine readable and human readable way that can be shared with others through an information delivery specification, and also automatically checked inside of the Plannerly workflow as well to make it super simple. So all of these different standards, all of these different ways of working, there must be, we always think there must be a simple way to do this. And that's what we keep seeking and keep trying to make this very complex process sometimes really difficult to achieve, but a lot more simple. That's what we're aiming for.
Oh, and I bet all of your clients are extremely grateful for that. It's so great that companies like yours are trying to fix this issue and trying to basically improve the way certain technicalities that shouldn't be complicated to understand. The information should be there, right? But the way it's communicated should be easy. Like communication is key, and it's the biggest problem in most projects, not only construction projects or any projects in the world. So you are basically helping with the biggest the problem that projects have.
Communication, that's it, isn't it? I think that it's because of miscommunication that we have problems on projects. And unfortunately, when you bring BIM into the equation, there's an opportunity for a massive amount of better communication, improved communication. But when everyone's doing BIM for different reasons and it's not a consolidated view, it becomes more models and more problems than we had maybe before. More issues. You know, we have these thousands of lists of thousands of clashes that we didn't have before. We would find them in the field. We would not find them in the model, maybe, but it would be something that would be worked out by different people. So bringing all of these problems early is a problem in itself. How do you manage those workflows and processes? How do you create accountability? And one of the key problems in the traditional workflow and trying to get good communication is we tend to create big documents and we store up all of these decisions until we feel comfortable that it's ready to be released. So people create Word documents, they PDF them only when they're ready, only when it's finished. They send that on an email and they expect somebody else to read and to understand and to agree to exactly what they've defined. And it's almost impossible because it's usually too late, because the contract and all of these specifications or documentation is built up over time, and then it has to be released by a certain date, and then people are under a pressure to be able to say, yes, I want to bid on this project, or I'm going to accept those criteria. And it ends up being not reviewed, but accepted. And then only when it's too late, only when the proverbial has hit the fan and there's a problem, that people say, well, it was in the contract, or it was in the BIM execution plan, or it was written down here, and nobody read it. Nobody felt accountable. Nobody had been communicated with, had a two-way conversation, gone through an acceptance process, and then understood what they're going to go and do. So that's the difference between Word documents to PDFs to emails to marked up documents, etc. Compare that with the Plannerly approach is smaller pieces of bite-sized accountability by assigning those parts of a document to certain team members for either editing or for sharing and commenting, and then only publishing certain parts of a document, having permissions on the whole set of documents all in the same place. Everyone knows exactly where to get it, and they know exactly what's approved and authorized for use and what is maybe still in work and progress. So people have the opportunity to comment on certain things, even when documents are being created, because you don't have to share everything all at the same time.
True. It is, and I was saying is, it makes so much sense because it's like a BIM model. Like you don't wait until the model is completely released to share it with the other stakeholders or with the subs, or like if we can already define or something on an early stage, why waiting like 3 more months to define that if we can just define it early? And I think that's pretty obvious on large projects, but that's also important in the smaller projects as well. I'm sure you have seen this, and you already know that like in larger projects, the implementation of BIM it's really fast. Like most large projects they use BIM, but smaller projects not so much. And this is still happening on 2024, right? What do you think about that? What's your experience with like not only large projects but working with SMEs and having that different type of size of project and the value that it can have centralizing the data and documents as well?
I think both types of projects generally get it wrong. The small projects say, this is a small project, we don't need to do BIM. The large projects say, this is a large project, this is a really high and prestigious project, we need to do everything related to BIM. Like we need the digital twin with a unicorn, and it needs to be perfect. Every single piece of information needs to be on every single model element, and there's millions of elements and millions of problems. So it's kind of like, it's very disparate. And I think that generally, if people did more BIM for the good of their own company, but in a collaborative and open way, then the whole industry would get better. And if it's a small project, I've got a great example. We actually were in exactly this position where we had a client say, they were very anti-BIM, and they said, I don't think that BIM is for us because we have some small projects, we have some big projects. We said, you could give us any project and we'll show you how that can benefit. And the guy thought he was being funny because he gave us their smallest project that they had, which was they had to close a part of a road, dig a hole, put a surface, basically a diverting culvert in, and then cover the road again. And we were like, oh, this could be terrible. Like how are we going to find problems with this? But we found that the precast slab with the cutout for where the manhole was going, and where the step irons to go down the manhole when you open the cover and you go down, they were in the wrong position. So they would have had this road open, a road closed, big hole in the road, and the precast slab would have had to be recast. So they've had another few days at least to be able to then put this in. So we found that this problem because of a coordination error, and like just even on a small project, you can see there's value, massive value opportunity there. On large projects, I think there's so much desire to show good from using BIM that we over commit, and instead we should be focused on real true value for the customer, which usually there's a lot of different customers, but let's look at the owner. And this is where the international standards come in. ISO 19650 is all about purpose-driven BIM and purpose-driven information. So going all the way back to the organizational information requirements, the OIR, as the starting point for an organization that is implementing, what does it mean for them? Why should they be doing BIM in the first place? If they are a hospital owner, then maybe they would have a totally different outlook on what they need versus a casino operator, or somebody building an office building versus building an apartment building. They are vastly different in what they need. Some might need the building open on time, but not worry about cost. Let's say that's a casino potentially. Maybe a hospital has that same sort of outlook, but with a completely different environmental and aesthetic, and their goals are very different. And I found in my career on the construction side, I would be building these projects and I wouldn't really understand the goals of the owner. And not that I thought of it at the time, but now I look back and I think there was one time when I was working in a town center project where we were building, there was a redirection of roads. It was a one-way system that actually they ended up going the other way. And then there was a few buildings in there that we were building at the same time. And we had a visit by the mayor of the town and of that part of the city. There was in the outskirts of London. And the mayor came in and said to us, this is why we are doing this project. This is who is going to benefit. This is what you guys are doing. This is why you are here. And it made me come to work the next day. And I thought, I'm going to start making my decisions slightly differently because I now know why I'm doing this. And it gives purpose to everything. So that whole thing, if you can have the owner really drive the requirements with the purpose, then choosing what you're going to use the building information model for and choosing how much you do at what point in time, by whom, and what types of interactions you have and what BIM uses you are going after, that if you can align that with the owner's desires, the owner's goals, then you're going to have a lot more benefit for everybody. Unfortunately, what happens is today an owner says, I want some BIM, and they raise their hand, please give me lots of BIM. And they heard or read something about digital twins online, and they say, I want a digital twin. And then the whole supply chain says, this owner wants BIM to all of these things and digital twin, and they haven't described it well enough. So it ends up causing a lot of wasted effort in a huge supply chain. And unfortunately, thinking that they're providing that for the owner, when really they should be trying to use BIM and benefit themselves so that everyone can win together. Collaborative, but purpose-driven BIM needs to be something we all align on, which is the ISO 19650 principles again, and tying that back through to the owner's purpose. Man, I went off on one then.
No, but I feel that what you say is so rich, because it's like even AI, like everything should be AI now. Like, well, AI is just a tool. What do you want to achieve? What's the added value for who this is going to be implemented? Like even when companies implement like Dynamo or like, it's a typical error in, I feel that all of us are developers out there. It's like when you start doing software development or Dynamo or whatever, you want to implement it on everything. And it's like, it's just a tool. Like you cannot try to push it and automate something that it might be more expensive to build the tool than actually doing it manually, and even at the level, I've been part of startups as well. And at the startup level, it's also something that sometimes we do is we have this tool and we try to sell it to everybody. No matter who the client is. And the same tool is not for everybody, or it shouldn't be implemented the same way. Like you said, that the necessities of BIM shouldn't be the same for everybody, or the same, like LOD, even the same LOD. Like, why do you need, I don't know, some really high LOD on certain phase? Maybe it's for a different phase, or even like a digital twin. So I feel it's such a simple concept, but so hard sometimes, even to put yourself in the shoes of the client, right? Like, who's the client? what are their needs? Can I be in the same room of this guy, just trying to understand 1 hour, what's the pain? What's the pain he's suffering? And it's hard. It's so simple and it's hard. And you explain it perfectly. So so I love that. And then to ask you about who are your biggest clients right now? Who are you helping the most? Like everybody in the industry, just architects and GCs? If you can tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I wish that was a very simple and direct answer. It would make easier to have communication with one team specifically. But we have owners that are pushing their standards and saying, this is how I want BIM. And it could be, this is the definition of a digital twin for me. We have architects that are saying, I want to do BIM, but I only want to do it to this level. So I don't want to sign up for too much risk. And I want to clearly define that. So they are clearly defining it using Planoly. And if there's something that changes or additional work, then they can clearly show and say, this is more than I had signed up for. We have contractors that are saying, I have to manage multiple trades that build models to come together and coordinate. I need to make sure that these things are included so that I can get the right quantities, or I can do the right simulation, or I can have the right coordinated elements at the right times. We have engineers that are pretty much the same sort of thing, but they see it as winning more work. So they are more progressive if they're an HVAC contractor and they're the ones saying, I already do BIM and this is how I do it. And this is exactly why I include. And that's why you should choose me. They're the ones that are getting a repeat business because they are the ones that are more advanced than others. And we have a whole bunch of BIM consultants around the world, which are helping all of that happen. And they are the ones that are leading the charge on each of them. So yeah, it would be great if it was just a single type of customer, but the tool that we've created is it sort of covers a whole bunch of things, from defining what you want for early design and coordination, right the way through to what do you want in the model as a handover, as an asset information model, as a COBie deliverable, or as an output of a set of properties that is going to go into your facilities maintenance. So that whole life cycle and everything in between, even the construction phasing.
So this was so great and so insightful. But before we wrap up, can I make you a couple of ping pong questions where you just say whatever comes to your mind?
Sure. Absolutely. I love ping pong.
I promise they're not going to be like hard questions, just easy questions. So
Okay.
Can you tell me what's the greatest AEC software of all times out there?
Well, I would have to say Planoly, but I think that you've got to start somewhere. And I think without AutoCAD, we wouldn't be in the position where we are now. And unfortunately, the father of that journey we lost very recently. So yeah, probably saying AutoCAD on that one.
Sure. Good one. The next big trend in the AEC?
Well, everyone's implementing AI. We did so last year. I think that there's still that wave to go, and I think it's about implementing in a useful way rather than just creating more of what we're doing at the moment. So AI in a very tactical way and precise way inside of products, rather than that being the leading factor of what the product is.
Yeah, always adding value to the client first. Absolutely. Yep. If you could collaborate with any person in history on any project, with which person would you choose?
Well, I had the perfect experience with a guy called Steve Christian. He was my project manager back when I was building, we were doing a tunneling project at the time. And I love his energy, his enthusiasm for being on site and being the kind of the guy that gets everyone going. And I've never seen a more committed project manager. And I always want to believe that whenever I feel like, oh, I need a little, like I call that a Steve Christian. I need to get into the Steve Christian mindset and be a bit more like him. So I've already had the possibility to work with him. I'd love to work with him in the future again as well, but it's been some time. So yeah, over 20 years.
That's so cool that you're choosing a person you have already worked with, not like some leader out there that's famous or something. So it's so nice. So congrats. That's on your previous boss. And then what's your favorite building in the world? Have you ever visited?
Oh, cool. I have lots. So my favorite building, unfortunately, I'm going to pick not necessarily. So something that I have built, which is a set of sea defenses along the coastline in the UK, in England, and I remember, the blood, sweat, and tears, and the putting on dry suits and all of the surveying apparatus, all the equipment, theodolites, and all the total stations, etc., and just the amazing energy from the team as we built it. So there's I like seeing buildings, but when you know the story behind something and how it's been created and the people behind it, I'm kind of drawn to that. I'm drawn to story more. I love the Shard, the look of the Shard in London. I have been there, but I think it's more for skyline than it is for aesthetics. That's one. But I could keep talking about buildings. Buildings is and the other one, a personal connection as well. Going back to my hometown and seeing some of the projects that I've built with my father. That sort of thing. That's the stuff that gets me going. So yeah, no matter how small, but also anything that's skyline as well. The Burj Al Arab as well. Seeing the story of the Burj Al Arab being built and how that changed Dubai. The Burj Khalifa is kind of a craziness and an easy one to pick. So yeah, lots of different projects around the world.
Yeah. Like, you cheat me on that one. It was just one. But it went from civil engineering to the Shard to stuff you built with your father to Burj Khalifa. So you gave us a little bit of everything. For sure.
I cheat.
Yeah, you cheat. You're good. So last but not least, outside the AEC, any hobbies or activities you have passion for?
I love playing sport. I love spending time with my family, but I love playing soccer with my kids, football with my kids. I love playing tennis and I love playing golf. They are the things that, from an activity perspective, especially, so the founder life, you spend a lot of your time thinking and living and breathing and doing and in front of a laptop and, endless hours and the whole sob story there. But my release is when I get a chance to go out on the tennis court and hit a few balls, and it takes me back to my 13, 14-year-old self, and that's what I love. Yeah.
Nice. We can play one. If I'm in Irvine, I will let you know, and we can play. I used to play too, so.
Oh, we should do that. Yeah, we should do that.
Absolutely.
I'm just about to go to the store to get a new racket as well, so I'll look for some recommendations from you after.
Absolutely. And before we wrap it up, can you tell the audience where they can find more about Plannerly or contact you as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So plannerly.com, plannerly.com, and you can connect with me on LinkedIn. You can email me. It's clive@plannerly.com. And I'm pretty easy to find online. So you'll be able to hunt me down, I'm sure.
Okay. Thanks very much for your time. It was so great having you, Clive, here, and looking forward to what Plannerly is doing, which is amazing.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I had fun. Thanks for asking me some really interesting questions as well at the end. I like the ping pong session.
It was fun for sure. Okay, man. Have a great day. Hope you get your new racket.
Oh yeah, I'm excited about that.
Thanks to our listeners. If you like this content, you can find past and upcoming episodes in ascworks.everse.com and at all of our Everse social media. We'd love to hear from you and recommendations for new content, so leave us a DM and we'll make sure to catch it.